What's up, fellow netbook users? Today I'm going to be answering one specific question that many people have asked me. This is a video answering some of the questions of one question in specific that a lot of people asked from my Asus 1215N Q&A video. Anyways, what this question is which one is better, the 1215N or its predecessor, the 1201N? Now, many of you, if you don't know what the 1201 is, Asus 1201N, it's the predecessor of the 1215N, and it uses a previous generation Ion, which I believe had 128 megabytes of video RAM, or 256. I'll have to check later on, and I'll put a little thing there. Anyways, it also had a dual-core 1.6 gigahertz Atom, and that was one of the first dual-core Atoms that appeared on the netbook, and it was by far the best performing Ion 1 netbook, and so far, there's a lot of videos of its performance and stuff, and many of the people have noticed, disturbingly, that it's actually has better performance than the 1215N. So and it's at the same price as the 1215N, and it's at the same size and everything. So people are wondering, why should I get this supposedly better netbook while my own 1201N or 1201N is better than it? So why should I get this new one, or should I get the old one? So it's not actually the case that the 1201N is better than the 1215N. It's just performs better for now. What this means is its performance is better than the 1215N because it's been around for a while, and it has the newer updates to its drivers and everything, while the Asus 1215N is a younger system and it hasn't been updated completely with its drivers. So by hardware specifics and benchmarks, the Asus 1215N is by far much better than well, not too much by far. I'll show the PC Vantage marks and the 3D marks and everything on my blog. And so it's better than the 1215N is better than the 1201N by hardware specifications and everything. It's got a 1.8 gigahertz dual core Atom, and it's got a Ion 2, which has 512 megabytes of video RAM dedicated, and that's pretty impressive. The only reason why it's not performing better than the Asus 1201N is because right now the drivers aren't working. So the drivers aren't making the computer perform its best, and the reason is, I don't like to point fingers because it's impolite, but I believe it's Intel's fault with it. If you want to go and have a little history lesson here on netbooks, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. Basically, I'm going to talk about the old Ion's platform. Back then when I had bought my Acer Aspire 1 way back then, they had a Diamond family hardware, Diamond family chipset, which they had based off the old 775 series on FSB architecture, and that may sound like total gibberish, but we'll go ahead and say what that was. Basically, it had two chipsets. It had the 945 GSE chipset, which basically handled the graphics and the memory control, like RAM, and the display output. And then they had the separate chip, which was called the ICH7M, and it essentially controlled all in and out functions, such as like USB or the hard drive, the SATA hard drive. Anyways, Intel gave NVIDIA a contract, or allowed them to modify this for the Ion platform. And so they combined those two chipsets into an MCP, which is a media communications processor, and then they put their own chip, the NVIDIA Ion, which is actually, I think it's based off the old 9400M processor, graphics processing unit, and then so they put that just dedicated for the graphics, and then they put all the Intel stuff into that MCP, which controlled all the rest of the stuff. So this was a very streamlined build, and that's why it was very fast, and much faster than the old one. And then, but the new Atoms came out, which was a Pine View. If you're not familiar with that, it's just basically Pine View, so green, so it's more energy efficient. And when that came out, it wasn't really compatible with the old system that with the Intel, and not the Intel, but the NVIDIA Ion platform. So NVIDIA had to come up with a new platform, the NVIDIA Ion 2. But the Intel didn't give them free reign like they had before. This is from my understanding of reading a bunch of blogs, so I'm not entirely sure if this is correct. And so they didn't give them free reign as they did before, so they had their own specific chipset, and then they didn't allow the NVIDIA to change it around as they did before. This is what I heard. I'm not sure if this is true. So NVIDIA just had to put their their Ion, which is a 218M chipset, I believe, and they put it right next to it, and they linked it up to the Intel chipset, and so that actually bottlenecked the power of the NVIDIA Ion 2. And so that's kind of what's happening right now. However, this bottleneck can be fixed with software. So we're just having to wait for NVIDIA to release some sort of drivers, or if they don't anytime soon, I'm sure the hackers will develop their own modded drivers, like they did with my old Acer Spire 1. That was underpowered, and it could have been better, and so the modders, they made they had modded drivers that allowed it to play much better games, and it allowed it to play like almost 15 frames per second faster in some games, like in Half-Life. I heard someone got it up to like 25 frames per second, or 15 to 25 frames per second consistently through the whole thing, and that's pretty amazing. So that's what we need to have happen with the Asus 1215N. We need new drivers, and since it's a young processor, a young platform, NVIDIA will most likely update it, but we don't know when, and if they don't, then we can always rely on the modders. Well, anyways, I hope that helped you understand what happened here with the Asus 1215N. So if you're right now considering buying either one, and you're thinking maybe I should get the 1201N because it performs faster now, but what if in the future, the Asus 1215N performed like twice as good as the 1201N? And I'm not saying it will, but I'm just saying what if. So you could either wait for the Asus 1215N to get drivers and then consider which one you should buy, or if you're like constricted on a time limit, say you got like maybe you have to get something for school or something like that, and you also want it for gaming, and you need it like right now, I would really consider getting the 1215N and waiting for those updates, because it is a a very good platform, and it can be used more better. It can its potential is not being used fully. So I believe that NVIDIA will release drivers, or modders will make their own modded drivers, but I believe it is a superior system in a sense. So I hope that helped you understand, and I hope I'm not like putting down 1201N users. It's a very good netbook, but it's the previous generation, and this new generation, it's a newer generation now, and I believe it will be better. So I hope I've been saying this and going in a loop so many times. So anyways, yeah, once again, I hope it helped answer your questions, and if you have more questions, go ahead and put it in that video, the Asus 1215N Q&A, or in this video, or PM me or whatever. Go to my blog and answer, because that whole PM before didn't really work out. So just put it in the comments anywhere, and I'll find it, and I'll put the lesser comments on my blog, and the more complexing questions, or the ones that I need to answer with, I need to speak the answers, I will do videos. Anyways, I'll see you guys later, and I hope you guys are satisfied with this video.